Welcome to the Missouri Valley's Mobilizing Voices for Change One Valley podcast. I'm Kelly Burke, and joining me today is the past and present of Loyola basketball, Jerry Harkness and Lucas Williamson. Jerry is an All-American captain of the 1963 Loyola National Championship team that included the infamous Game of Change. He went on to play for the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. Jerry was also the first Black salesman for Quaker Oats and first African-American sportscaster in Indianapolis. He's been active his entire life in the fight for civil rights, and recently he wrote his first memoir, Connections, which he will share more about. Lucas was a freshman on Loyola's Final Four team and is coming off a Sweet 16 senior season. He's a journalism major who's using his voice to speak out against race and social justice issues. Lucas is currently a narrator and co-writer of a documentary on the 1963 Loyola National Championship team that is coming out later this year. His former head coach, Loyola's Porter Moser, said about Lucas, quote, that he's going to leave a wake, referring to Lucas's post-basketball career. And the good news is he recently announced he is coming back for one more season. So Jerry and Lucas, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure, and I was really happy to hear that Lucas was coming back. Good move.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think we're all excited that Lucas is coming back. Everybody that's a fan of the conference and a fan of Loyola. Jerry, let's start with you. You were born in Harlem, and you told me actually last week that basketball wasn't even initially your best sport growing up. How did an encounter with Jackie Robinson at your local YMCA change the course of your life?
Wow. I was involved with cross country. I ran distance racing, and that was my first love, and I really enjoyed it. And matter of fact, I had scholarships to St. John and NYU in track and field. So I really enjoyed that. And then I went to the Y and was shooting around. I had played a lot, but cross country was my main focus. And I was just shooting baskets, and a guy came behind me and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, you're not that bad." I turned around and my eyes buckled wide, and I was all excited because that guy, he just took and gave me a little grin, and then he left. And I told him, "Thank you," though. I remember that. And his name was Jackie Robinson. And so that was the first time somebody kind of motivated me and stimulated me towards basketball. And Jackie played baseball, as you know, basketball, ran track, and so on. So I kind of connected to him. And that was the beginning. I left Harlem, moved to the projects, and they had a basketball team, so I got really involved there. Then I would play in Rutgers Park, and I got better and better. But I stayed to track and field, and I did not try out for my high school team until I was a senior, because my mind was focused in on the track. And I thought of Jackie, and everybody was telling me that I should go out for the basketball team. And I did, and I made the team. And then I started, and then we won everything in high school basketball, and I kind of led the team. But that was the beginning of it all. And it all started with Jackie Robinson saying, "You're not that bad."
Incredible. The Jackie Robinson. Lucas, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you recently announced, along with 3 of your senior teammates, that you are coming back for one more year, to the joy of everybody in our conference. After a Sweet 16 run, you obviously have some unfinished business on the court. What unfinished business do you have off the court at Loyola?
Off the court, I'm actually helping work on a documentary featuring the 1963 team. I'm helping narrate and helping tell their story. Actually, a very incredible story. That team, not only did they win a championship at the highest level, but they also had to deal with a whole bunch of things that I couldn't even begin to imagine off the court. So that's been fun, being able to connect with guys that have shared the Loyola jersey, and get to know their story in depth. So it's been a lot of fun.
Lucas, just to follow up on that for a second, how would you say that being a part of that documentary has impacted you in ways that you couldn't even imagine when you started working on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, initially I just felt very thankful, for there's guys in front of me that have paved the way so that all I have to do is focus on basketball. Like, I've never felt, threatened because of the color of my skin, that, I wouldn't be able to go out and just play basketball. So initially I just felt really thankful. And then really diving deep down and getting into the depths of the story, it was just more like, man, like, these guys are real life heroes. Like, these are the guys that, deserve the praise, deserve, the recognition, they deserve so much more than I feel like, they have so far. I mean, not too many people know the story of the 1963 Ramblers. So, just being a part of something that is able to get their name out there, you get that story out there, it's just been really special.
Jerry, as Lucas mentioned, when you and the 1963 team, when you guys would go on the road to opposing arenas, especially in the South, you were dealing with death threats, you were dealing with people spitting on you, you had to stay in segregated hotels. How did you focus on basketball when you were enduring such horrible treatment and conditions?
Well, I thank heavens I had my buddies with me, Les and Vic. Les and Vic were from Nashville, so they were connected to it a little bit earlier than Ronnie Miller and I, because we're from Harlem in New York, and it was a little different. But it was eye-opening, even going to Loyola, because, and believe it or not, we're talking about 1963, and even in the dormitory, there were not that many African Americans, and it was something new for us, even for the students that were at Loyola, to have African Americans in the dormitory and things like that. So we had to really, really make adjustments. I'll never forget when we first came there, they had a program for the freshmen, and they would put their beanie caps in a box, and the girls would pull out a beanie, the boys would put it in the box, the beanie, and they would pull it out, and that would be the first dance. So a lot of times that brought about a problem, because I'll never forget that a fellow by the name of Pablo Robinson, he drew a white girl, and they started dancing, and then he was stopped. They stopped the dancing because of black dancing with whites. That was 63, and it just was a big difference. It just had a lot of problems in that. I remember we had something at Mundelein where Mundelein, the girls were having a little get-together, and we didn't have much to do. We're in the dorm. It's on a weekend. And we said, let's go over to Mundelein. And we got over there early before everybody else, except the girls were all white girls. And we went into the Mundelein, and right away you could see that they were afraid. And I didn't realize that until later on in life. But one of the guys went over and just said hi to the girl, and the girl started tearing up, and I'll never forget it. She was shivering, she was nervous, and all that. And then a nun came in, saw her shaken up and all that, and thought it was because we were threatening them or something. They were just nervous, and they had not been around black men before, young men, as they lived in Connecticut, Winnetka, Glencoe, so they had no experience of inner Chicago. So things like that came about. And then Ireland had to call us down because this one situation which was kind of knocked out of hand there. We're trying to be friendly, but they panicked, they were scared. And they called the nun went to Ireland and told them that we're threatening the girls over there. And he called us in, and we had a nice talk, which took place quite a bit. We also, when we were on our way to play Loyola of New Orleans, he called the black players in and said, hey, this will be a first for them and all of this. And this is, they're going to be blacks on one side and whites on the other. And he says, are you ready to take this on? I'll never forget that. And we said, no. I was, as captain, I said, we're not going down there under those circumstances. So it was a lot of firsts. And then he talked us into it and told them that things we'll check and make sure things will change. Then we got to New Orleans, and when we got to the airport, I think, yeah. That's right. When we got to the hotel, we changed into a black cab, and the white guys stayed at the hotel. We had to stay with family members, and with a church and so on. So that had gotten to be almost ho-hum for us as running into things like that. Now, there were other situations, but we took to the South where other schools that had a lot of blacks on it, they didn't go to the South. They just didn't play in those conditions. And we decided, hey, we were going to do it. And that's what we ran into, situations such as that.
Jerry, let's talk about the game of change for a minute. For people that are unfamiliar, your Loyola team, you had 4 black starters. Mississippi State, meanwhile, at the time, they were not supposed to play racially integrated teams. And Mississippi State, essentially, they defied the governor of Mississippi's orders when they even played you in the second round of the tournament. You and Joe Dan Gold, the white captain of Mississippi State, stood at half court and you shook hands before the start of the game. And that was an incredibly symbolic moment. How did an unlikely friendship develop from that handshake at half court?
Well, we realized later on that we had so much in common. But the kind of lead into that, because I always tell the story, is when I went up to shake his hand, the place lit up. I mean, there were flash bulbs all over the place, just popping. And to this day, I'll never forget that. And I didn't at first realize what was going on. And then I realized that I didn't realize that they had run into a lot trying to come to Michigan to play us. It was a first in many respects. And we had gotten to be real good friends after that. It was a good game. That's another thing. We only won by 11. But it was even closer than that. A real good game. And the guys were so nice. And later on in life, they said the same about us. But to be the first to do this, and you thinking that Mississippi, Alabama, that they're not really interested in that, in integrating and all. But the guys were so happy to finally play against African Americans and to break that color line. And from there on, things really opened up at Mississippi. Matter of fact, 2 years later, Dr. Holmes became a student at Mississippi, which was the first. So strange enough and ironically enough, basketball got things started because they were even trying to find out what did people think about that, about Mississippi playing against Loyola, even in Mississippi. And the radio had sort of checking out what people thought about it. And 80% of the people wanted that to happen. And a lot of people don't realize that. They wanted to play against black players. But the governor and the people in that category did not want it. But we got to be best of friends, and we both dealt with mentoring, liked to work with kids. We both had cancer. And so we had a lot to talk about, and we got really, really close. And matter of fact, he passed away from cancer, and I went to the funeral, and I was the only black there at the funeral. And the family had heard, knew about me, the wife and all, and they ran over and hugged me. The ball players were all there to his funeral. And boy, then the picture of me and Jodan Gold shaking hands, that was right outside the casket. They had the big picture there that even to this day gets me a little weak inside with my legs and everything. But wow, that I can still see that. And it just was a great occasion there.
Jerry and Lucas, this next question is for both of you. And Lucas, I'll start with you. But you both had the honor of meeting each other back in 2018. Lucas, what do you admire most about Jerry and that 1963 Loyola National Championship team he was a part of?
One of the things that I admire about Jerry and the 1963 team is just like their focus, their will to win, like on the court and off the court. I mean, the brotherhood that they had off the court obviously shows in the way that they played on the court. Like, you know, a lot of things that we talk about in building this culture right now is like you have to really like play for the guy next to you. And that 63 team and Jerry being captain on that team and really leading that team, I mean, they really encompassed a lot of the things that we're still trying to do today. You know, in terms of like, you know, brotherhood, playing for each other, playing team defense, playing together, like just winning the right way. There's so many lessons that you could take from their story and apply it to today. Not just like basketball, not just speaking basketball terms, but like obviously off the court, the issues that Jerry is speaking on right now. That like I will never have to go through something like that because, you know, guys like Jerry and Jackie Robinson and they've already gone through it, so that I won't have to. So I mean, those are the things that I admire about the 63 team and Jerry.
Jerry, I'll flip the question on you. What's impressed you most about Lucas and the Sweet 16 and the Final Four teams that he's been a part of?
Well, you know, I looked at that team, and you almost get an idea of life, what you can accomplish in life. That was a team that had a lot of talent, but their connection together made them even better than that, better than the talent that they showed. And it just shows when people get together and strive for something. And I tell you, there was nobody. I saw this that, I mean, everybody hit the winning shot to me, and that's beautiful. If you look at that team in a game, almost it wasn't just one person. Everybody would come up with a big shot, would play their part. And that's the way it is in life today. If everybody play their part, we can make it. And I saw that team get better and better because of the connection they had with each other. And I think that's underplayed, what you can do together. And our team, for example, we got better. We struggled a little bit because Jack Egan, it was in an all-white area. We couldn't even go into his area in Chicago. And a lot of the other players on Loyola playing against us, the black players, this was a first. And we got to know each other. There was some, it's not promoted a lot, but we had a few problems early on. There was one major problem. I remember Bill Smith from Harlem was on the team, great ball player. And him and Egan couldn't get along. They just, Bill is a little more militant, and they just were battling with each other. And later on in life, Bill Smith gets sick. Egan called him every day, and they talked, and they began to the point that they really cared for each other. Bill Smith passed away. Egan was at the hospital. I mean, and it just goes to show, once you come together and get to know each other, what can happen. I think both teams were perfect examples. Oh, I really did. Our team went further, but they went to the Final Four, and I just had not seen a team like theirs before. How they blended in, nobody really have to take the last shot, and that made the team better because the other teams couldn't focus in on any one person. I really liked. It was such a good example of life. I thought Loyola's team a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, I was fascinated. I was watching a interview you did years ago, and was fascinated to hear you talk about that. The first half of that national championship game you guys played against Cincinnati, you said were the worst 30 minutes of basketball you've ever played in your life. And you actually had 0 points at halftime. How did you turn it around in the second half, down 15 points to edge Cincinnati in overtime for the national title?
It's strange to bring it up. I think within myself, the type of personality I had is that that would have been on my mind, and I knew it the rest of my life. I would have never gotten over if we had lost that game, because I felt that the players depended on me for something. And I'm not the only one. They depended on everybody else, each other on the team. But not to score a point in the first half, and I was in tears. And the other thing that I remember that I bring out a lot, I prayed. I prayed to God. I just felt so bad that I had let the team down. And that's what brought me back, I think. Matter of fact, I was praying when we were down 2 points, and I hit a shot to put it into overtime. And I'll never forget. I thank the Lord on that. And then, it just so much. It seems like spiritually I got stronger in that game. Because I know, always think myself, I would have been sick with myself for the rest, that one game of my life, because I let the team down. And everybody on the team felt that way about each themselves. And I was having, I ended with 13, 14 points or something. I came back, but I'll never forget that for the rest of my life.
Lucas, I understand that you love storytelling. Your dad growing up was a videographer for ABC7 in Chicago for a number of years. What's a story or two that he shared with you that influenced your decision to go into journalism?
I don't know if there was ever one specific story. I just know, every day he came home and he had a different story to tell. And that was really what fascinated me. One story that I will never forget, though, is he used to work for ABC World before I was born.
Yeah.
And so he traveled the world. So there's actually really two stories. One story is when he was like in Europe and he was covering a story for something and he actually got arrested for just doing his job. But then the other story, which is a little bit more funny, he was in Africa shooting something, and there was these monkeys on this tree, and he was messing around with the monkeys. And as he was messing around with one of the monkeys, they kind of like played him. So he was messing around with one of the monkeys, and then his buddy was behind him, messing with like his camera gear, and he actually stole one of his batteries. Yeah, so my dad turns around and he sees the other monkey, and the monkey takes his battery and runs back up the tree. So he had to go and get the battery back. So that's one story that yeah.
That's a good one. Jerry, since Lucas is majoring in journalism and wants to eventually go into the media, as someone that was Indianapolis's first Black sportscaster, what advice would you have for him about pursuing a career in media?
Well, I had a lot of things going for me and a lot of things that I didn't. Number one, it opened up where Indianapolis said, hey, we got to start hiring African Americans. So I was with the Pacers at the time, and I got to tell this story. I was in Dallas, and I came off the bench, and we were down a couple of points, and we were battling back. I made a nice layup, and we were down 2 points. And then one of the players scored, and we were tied up. And Dallas, the Chaparrals, took the ball and went up with about 5 seconds to go, and they scored. And it was 4-3-2. We took the ball out of bounds, a guy by the name of Oliver Darden, and gave it to me inbounds under their basket. And I pulled it back, and I let it go. I still not sure if I got it off in time, but I let it go. And I noticed that the ball was kind of going towards the basket. The ball hit the backboard, and went in. And it was the longest shot made in basketball history. And it was the longest three-point shot because they had taken the three-point shot. And I had gotten a lot of coverage on it all over the country as well as Indianapolis. And that's when it opened up to me, making the longest shot in basketball history. it's still the longest professional shot ever made. Somebody tied it. But anyway, just had to throw that in there because that's how people started to really notice me and give me a lot of interviews and things like that. So I got involved like that, and then the TV station had to were under pressure to hire blacks. So they came to me, and I said, I'll give it a try. And I struggled for a year or two. Well, about a year. I struggled where I was mediocre at best. And I got better, and I just kept working at it. And I said, it's just like athletics. You work at it, work hard, you'll get better. And I did. And as a result, I spent 12 years as a television reporter on the weekend with Channel 13 in Indianapolis. And I was on that for 12 years.
Lucas, you wrote an op-ed in the school newspaper, the Loyola Phoenix. That was really impressive. And I'm going to read a quote that you put in your article, and you said, racism is a disease that left unchecked will plague our country perpetually. What is the best way to go about having uncomfortable conversations about race and social issues, especially with people that think differently than you do?
You know, first of all, I would just say I'm not an expert, but this is just my opinion. You know, I would just say, like, just the first step would just be to have the conversation. You know, the having the conversation with itself is just already uncomfortable. But we need those type of conversations in order to have progress. I mean, the first step would obviously need to be understanding one another. If there's no understanding, if we're just making decisions for one another, making decisions based off of, you know, prejudices and stereotypes, then we're really not going to have real progress. If you understand someone, then you can start to love one another, and then you can really start making decisions in other people's best interests. But that first step is understanding, and that starts with anybody, everywhere. You know, anybody that has a friend or knows somebody, you know, just sit down and just talk with them. Like, you know, today, I feel like right now there's always something going on right now. You know, it's sad to say, but, you know, social media, everything is connected. So, I mean, if something happens, you know, just check on your friends of color. You know, reach out to them, just say that you're in their corner, supporting you if you ever want to talk, like, I'm here, things of that nature. But that first step needs to be, you know, having conversations with one another so you can come to a place of understanding.
Jerry, is there?
That's why I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's why I think basketball and sports is so good, because it almost draws us together. Not only on the court, but we eat together. We do a lot of things together. And from that, conversation should be even easier, because you could start from sports into the situations of the day. I really think that, and a lot of people don't talk about our Loyola team and the problems that we had with each other, because they don't know and we don't push it. We have a tendency to talk about the good things and us winning the national title and having 4. Matter of fact, we had 5 when Egan fouled out of a game. We had 5 on the court in Division I, so we were the first. But anyway, it's just that the conversation almost pushes itself into our everyday living, and to see that how we got so much closer, not as far as basketball, but as people, as the everyday living. and it came together. And then another thing, then we got close with Mississippi State players who were not even, they had never played, well, they played with blacks sometimes on schoolyard and so. But to get you to know, we even got close to them because of what we did together and breaking barriers. And we got to meet them, and we got to be good friends. My example of Joe Dangole, the captain there, and I, is just one. All the other guys got. My son, who did the game of change, he came up with the idea and did it with the. So he had to visit all of the white players and so on, and it was a great experience for the white players and Gerald, my son. So, ironically enough, sports can bring you together, and I think that was one reason why Mississippi took to that game taking place so fast, because they wanted to support their team, and they felt that they were hurting their team by not being able to play in the big tournament because of their feelings about black and white playing against each other. So people started to change because they felt that their team was being hurt by not playing in the tournament. And so sports can really play a part. And so it played a part with us on the court as well as off the court.
Jerry, you wrote a memoir about your life called Connections. What do you want people to understand about your life, and why did you decide to write the book?
Oh, good. Matter of fact, I got so involved and I forgot to push my own book here. Man, yeah. The thing I like about it is that it tells about my life coming up in Harlem. The Jackie Robinson is just one issue that I had. It gives me an opportunity to talk about the Loyola team and the connection that we had off the court as well as on, because that was not like it is now. I mean, a lot of different things that was taking place. But I also kind of put spiritual stories in my life and that connection with sports. And I think that gives it an opportunity to do that. But many of the things that we talk about here, coming up in Harlem and then having to make adjustments, going to a school called DeWitt Clinton, which was predominantly Jewish, and how we got to appreciate each other, even though we wore different clothes. Like blacks wore certain sneakers, and the Jews wore, and we started changing and wearing each other's clothes and the sneakers and things like that. And it just shows once you come together, and things really open. And I think Lucas hit it on the nose when he talks about, let's talk about it. And we did with the Jewish guys at Clinton. We sat down and talked about, we had them come up to play ball in Harlem, and we went to the neighborhoods, the Jewish neighborhoods, and played, and we went out to lunch together. It was just knowing each other and going from there. And I think the book does that. It talks about Ireland and what he did, and taking the chance to go with 4 and the abuse he took. And then my coach not giving up on me in basketball at the beginning, and also in track and field, and Jackie Robinson. And my mom, who had a nervous breakdown because of the poverty and the struggles she had to go through by herself, and how she broke through that and became better. She got confidence in herself. She got a job, and that determination, and that came back on me. Her determination and drive that I didn't have right away. And when I saw her go out, and she had nervous breakdown in a hospital, fought her way back and took care of us, good job, that grew on me. And that's why I think I got to be so much better in basketball, because of the determination I saw in her. I decided to use.
Perfect. We'll make sure to write that too. We'll link it in the podcast with the address so that people can write to you and get the book. I will be the first on the list, I should say too. So you can put me down for a copy and I'll send you the money. Lucas, you played a pivotal role in the formation of the Rambler Alliance for Equity. What's the purpose of that organization and the impact you guys are trying to make?
Just kind of, piggybacking off of what I just said, trying to get the conversation started, trying to, make Loyola a better place, especially for our student athletes here, because, a lot of the student athletes in the program make up a lot of the like African American, people of color population for the school. So it's just like, making sure that Norville is a safe place for our student athletes. It's a place where, we can't really control the athletic department. They can't really control what's going on with the rest of the school. But at least when you come into the facilities here, you come to practice, you come to your locker room, you can start to feel a little bit like home. You can feel that the athletic department is really, behind you. They care about us. And it's something that I've worked really, really closely with our athletic director, Steve. I mean, he's been all over it. So I give him credit. But yeah, that's basically what it's supposed to be about.
Jerry, you're the executive director of the Indianapolis chapter of 100 Black Men. How does that organization support the lives and aspirations of young Black men?
Yeah, well, it really, we go into schools and we go into the classrooms and work with the kids in the classroom, help the teacher that's already in there. We play athletics together. We have movies that we'll go to, and afterwards we'll discuss the movie. We just talk with kids. I give them my experiences, and because I can tell them that I'm been through what you're going through, sort of a experience. So I try to tap them in many ways, and then we try to help them, and not only on the basketball court, but with their schoolwork. We have a lot of doctors that are in there, so Black doctors will put on little programs, and it's just a very positive event. Matter of fact, I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I just sold, I think, and I thanked them, 50 books to a Black student group of Loyola. And I'm going to talk to their group. I'm glad that they asked me to do that. But we have to do a lot together and help each other. So I'm glad they had me come out to talk to them over the phone or Zoom. And I think that's what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. One of my last few questions for you both, I wanted to ask you both, and Lucas, I'll start with you. The George Floyd murder trial was front and center over these last few months. What was your reaction when you heard the Derek Chauvin verdict of guilty, guilty, guilty?
I mean, that's a great question. You know, first off, I mean, it's a touchy subject. You know, it's something that, you know, it's uncomfortable to talk about. You know, I feel very passionately about this subject. But, you know, once I heard what the ruling was, I'm not happy about it because, you know, obviously I would be happy if the situation never happened. You know, I do feel like justice was served, but at the same time, it's like again, justice would have been served if George Floyd was still with us today. But what I didn't want to happen was, you know, people look at this incident and they say, hey, we got it right. And then people forget that we have this underlying problem in America. And that's what I really don't want to happen. I don't want the conversation to die just because, you know, we got it right one time. You know, there are so many cases that I feel like we haven't even talked about, that we don't even hear about. And because you don't hear about it, you might not have gotten the same publicity as this trial, and you know, it might be drugged. So I mean, I still feel like I want people to say, like, you know, we still have a long ways to go. We still have progress that needs to be made. We did, you know, justice was served. We did get it right one time, but you know, going further, hopefully we can prevent incidents like this from happening, for one, and for two, hopefully we can have more accountability and holding people to a certain standard going forward.
Jerry, what was your reaction when you heard the verdict?
I was happy. I've been through so much. I've been through a lot of good, and Mississippi State, Loyola is the good. But when I came back and became the first African American for Quaker Oats, I wanted to move to Winnetka, and I couldn't find a place that would take me. And we had won the national title, all of this, and even around Loyola. So I was kind of happy, but leery. And I think I have a right to be leery because I've seen so much, all of this turned around. Even right now, they're talking about another hearing for him. So this really bugged. I mean, it hurts me because I've been through a lot. And I think of a kid getting shot 16 times and all of the things that I saw happen. I am still so very, very leery. And I think that we will have to stay on top of it and not relax. And the one thing that's making movement is that blacks and whites are marching, are doing things together. And that's a big plus. But I'm still leery of it, and I still hurt from the things. I just had a lot of pain when I heard the other day he's going to get another trial. They're fighting to give him another trial. So here we go again. So it's been tough for me because I've faced it and went through a lot. I've seen a lot of progress, but then you have these things that occur and you think we still have so long to go. But at first, when the decision took place, I said yes. But then this decision that he might get another trial, I said, here we go again. Or it's been depressing for me, and I've just seen so much in my lifetime.
One of the things that I find so interesting about both of you and the way that your lives are entwined, sort of even unintentionally through basketball and the different eras you played, is that obviously you came to Loyola to play basketball, but your roles, on each of your teams has been so much greater than just basketball. So I'll ask each one of you this, but how have you just embraced, and Jerry, let's start with you. How have you embraced that your life and that sort of your purpose was used as a vessel for something much bigger than basketball, even though you didn't necessarily, when you were younger, you didn't necessarily think that your life was going to be used in that way?
Wow. I want to bring something out here, and so I don't know if I tapped into your question, but I truly believe that Lucas's experience with that Loyola team and my experience with mine was made to be. I truly believe it's spiritual. I think of Jackie Robinson coming in my life, moving me over to basketball. I think of a guy that watched us play the Loyola championship team, and when we won the title, he was black, and he said, I want to do something. I want to do something after watching us. And his name was Dr. O.T. Gordon. And Dr. O.T. Gordon came to Indianapolis and became my doctor after I motivated him. He became my doctor. Guess what? He finds cancer in my body and corrects me. Texas Southern. I was on my way to Texas Southern, and the dorm burns down, which gives me an opportunity to go to Loyola. I was almost in a point scandal, but at the last minute, I said no. If I go into the point scandal, my everything goes out the window. That happened to me. I could go over and over with things that happened to me. Ireland going in, being hung in effigy when the dorm burned down at Texas Southern. Ireland didn't really want me, but somebody said, you got another. He can't go to Texas. He's trying, and he called me over and gave me a scholarship. It's just Les Hunter and me. We both was ready to leave the school because of some of the problems that we had, but we decided to stay. 6th, 7th, 9th. A lot of people, or some people, don't realize the 6th man, the 7th man, and the 9th man for our team had to leave school because of grades. We won that national title with 9 people and with half the people gone. So I could go on and on with the different things that happened to me. I was not a great shooter, and I hit the longest shot in basketball history. I mean, it's almost like, and this whole deal with Mississippi State, I think it's spiritual. I think because to have 2 great teams that really cared for each other, I can go on and on. I can talk about Vic Rouse, who had polio when he was a kid, and they didn't think he'd walk, and he hits the winning basket. Then he gets stabbed in Evanston when we go to a party over there. He got stabbed real bad in his back. Les Hunter, coming to Loyola, he was 6'4" when Ireland decided to get him and Ralph to come. He comes into Loyola, grown 3.5, 4 inches. He was 6'7" when he got in. I mean, I got all of that. I could go on and on with things. I'm not going to hold you. But I truly think that God has enough. He wants us to change. And we were just two of the things to do to make these things change. I could go on and on with the ball players and all that, but just to give you an idea, that might be my next book of all of the things. The KKK coming into the dormitory at Loyola, and with their, not them coming in, but sending us cards and all of that. It's just amazing. And all we went through in New Orleans and Houston. So I just have to throw that out there. I just think that what we're doing is something to help America. I truly believe that.
Lucas, how do you feel like your life and your voice is being used in something beyond basketball?
Well, I've always tried to pride myself on that. You know, I'm not just a basketball player. Like, this is my passion. This is something that I dedicate a lot of my time to. And I love basketball, and I could, you know, I'll probably be, you know, 60 years old, still playing in the YMCA somewhere. But, you know, but there are other things that I'm also passionate about. You know, I'm passionate about, you know, equality. I'm passionate about, you know, making Chicago a better place, making the nation a better place, leaving things better than the way I found it. You know, and Jerry talked a lot about, you know, spirituality, and, you know, I believe that too, you know, because, you know, my senior year I wasn't really recruited by Loyola at all until late. Loyola actually didn't even have a scholarship available until somebody decided they were going to transfer out. So the fact that I even, you know, am still at this university, the fact that I'm connected with guys like Jerry, to a story like the 63 team, you know, and that really just aligns with everything that I am trying to do, everything that I all my goals and aspirations that I have off the court. You know, it's really crazy to think about, you know, that God has put me in this position to where I could even, you know, be in a movie narrating, telling their story. I mean, so that's crazy to think about, and it's just such a blessing to be in this position, to be a part of this university, to represent this university and doing something that I love, basketball. So, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I had no idea about Lucas, and there's a connection even in our conversation here. He's going to be a huge success. Lucas is going places.
Most definitely. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Lucas, is there a date set for the release of the documentary that you're working on?
As of right now, there's no official release date yet. But when it comes out, I mean, it's a great movie. I think that it has a little bit of everything. It has a little bit of, you know, what we need to hear right now as a nation. Like, yes, there are things that divide us, but that's just only thing that just makes us different. But at the same time, like, you know, when you talk about sports, when you talk about just this nation as a whole, I mean, there's so many things that also bring us together. So I think this story is going to be something that people watch and be like, hey, you know, we are different. We come from different places, but at the same time, like, everybody can cheer for a 1963 team. I mean, everybody's going to cheer for Loyola in that movie. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a great movie for where our nation is right now.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing it when it comes out, and obviously look forward to keep following your journey. And we know you're going to continue to have success on the basketball court, but I think probably I can speak for Jerry in saying we look forward to even more seeing the success you're going to have coming off the court, because that's pretty much guaranteed. So thank you to you both for taking the time to chat with me today and to have this conversation. It's such an honor to learn from you both and to listen to you both, Jerry and Lucas. And Jerry, thank you so much for taking the time. I look forward to getting your book here in the next couple of weeks. And I look forward to seeing your friendship between the two of you continue to grow and prosper.
Thank you very much. I believe that will take place.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, this was a lot of fun.